The spring is coming on. You got your new RV, but are you ready to tow it? In this video, we're going to go over the top 10 mistakes that RVers make. And these are not just mistakes that new RVers make. These are mistakes that I see every day on the road, even from people who have been RVing for years. So, go through these. Let us know what you think and what you've seen. Did we miss something? Let us know down below. These are the top 10 that we see. Number one, and the most common mistake that we see, is improper towing. This usually comes down to your hitch. You may have too much weight. You may not have the right size hitch. You may not have the right drop or raise on it. And because of that, you're often going to see this. Trailers pulled at a V, or they're pulled like this. We see this most commonly with either trailers that are too big for the tow vehicle, or we see it a lot with pop-up campers. People think that they can just hook up at whatever way and head on down the road. This is not the case and can oftentimes become very dangerous. You need these to be level. Your trailer should be level with your tow vehicle. You may have to buy a drop hitch. You may have to buy a hitch that's flipped and raised. Or you may need a weight distribution hitch. You need to refer to your manufacturer's information in your tow vehicle and with your camper to see what it is that you need exactly. The next thing that we see a lot, and the number two, we see this quite often, is people confuse stabilizers and leveling. The stabilizers that are on most campers, sometimes they're referred to as landing gear, are not used for leveling. This is most commonly found on smaller trailers, smaller travel trailers, and pop-ups. A lot of your larger units, such as your fifth wheels and your Class A's, do have leveling systems. However, if you have something like a scissor jack or a drop-down jack, something that you have to physically wind down, chances are it is probably used for stabilizing your camper and not for leveling. Using these to level can cause damage to your frame and to the stabilizers. So keep this in mind. You level side to side by putting things under the tires, such as the Anderson levelers that we have listed in our shop. We'll put a link down here below, or wheel blocks, different things that people pull up on. That is how you level side to side. Leveling front to back can be accomplished by using your tongue jack. So keep this in mind. Do not fall for this trap. The third thing that we see quite often is people trusting campground water sources. You never know what kind of pressure are going to be coming out of these. Sometimes they're okay. A lot of times, more often than not, there's too much pressure coming out of the spigot at the campgrounds for your system. You need to use a water pressure regulator. Now, these can range from anything to just a few dollars that you can pick up at Walmart. We'll have another video on that coming soon. Or your local camping store. Some of these are set at a preset regulated to 50, 55 psi, something like that. Others are adjustable and some have gauges. It just depends on what you want. But you need a water pressure regulator no matter where you're at. Get in the habit, use it all the time. The last thing that you want is to have too much pressure coming into your lines and causing a leak or rupturing a pipe in that camper that you spent so much money on and you're ready to enjoy, to only now have a flood in your camper and you've got repairs on your hands to take care of. The fourth thing, and probably even more common than the improper towing that we see, is speed. Just because you're used to driving at a certain speed doesn't mean that you can safely do this with your camper. You need to take into account several factors. You need to take into account your camper, what the manufacturer recommends as a safe speed. You need to take into account your tires. What are your tires rated for on your camper? What is your weight? And most of all, you need to think of the safety of yourself and others. We oftentimes see people blow by us only to see them sitting on the side of the road down the ways a little bit because they've blown a tire out, because the tire was rated for a lower speed and it got hot and it blew out. This is the last thing that you want to happen if you're on your way to a trip, on a camping trip, and then your weekend is just completely shot. So you need to make sure that you know what your tires are rated at and stay below that level. One thing that we do that has worked well for us, it served us well, and we see it quite often across the community, is just keep your speed down to 65 miles an hour maximum when you're towing. Even on the interstate. I don't care if we're out west and the speed limit is 75, 80, 85 miles an hour. We're going to go 65 miles an hour. That is for our safety and the safety of everyone else. Stay at 65, stay to the right lane out of everyone's way. You're going to increase your gas mileage, and you're going to be a lot safer in doing so. The next point here is one that we hear quite a bit, and we see questions about it quite frequently in different threads and groups, and that relates to your gray and your black tank. Do you leave them closed? Do you leave them open? Do you stay hooked up? What do you do? Let's break this down a little bit. Two tanks usually, well, three. You have your fresh tank, but your black tank and your gray tank are pretty well connected together off of the same discharge line that's going to go into the dump or the sewer. When you dump these, you always want to dump your black tank first, followed by your gray tank. For this reason, the gray tank water is flushing out your lines a little bit. If you leave these open all of the time, all of your liquid is going to go out, and for lack of a better way to put it, you're gonna end up with a poopy pyramid. Yeah. This means you're going to have all of your solid material stuck in the bottom of your tank or in your line, and it's going to solidify and things are going to back up. This is not what you want to be dealing with, especially in the middle of the night. So leave your tanks closed. Go ahead and hook up the sewer. We all do it. Just leave your tanks closed. Watch your gauges. When you need to dump, you just go outside, pull the handle on your black tank, let it empty, close it off, pull the handle on your gray tank, and let it empty. If you do this in this order, you're not going to have issues with any of your tanks. All right, we've made it halfway through the list of the top 10 mistakes that we think RVers make and that we see all the time. So let's move on to number 6. Number 6 can be a very costly mistake if you make it. So this is something that you really need to think about. We've made the mistake at times when we first started. Fortunately, things weren't as bad as they could have been, and our awning didn't have to be replaced. That's it, your awning. People think that they can go to the camp and put their awning out and just leave it out. It would be great if we could, but unfortunately, you can't. There's this thing that happens in nature called wind. Wind can be very destructive to RV awnings. If you leave your awnings out and it gets way too windy outside, this thing is going to pull back and forth. It's going to flop up and down, and your canvas or your fabric is going to rip. It's going to pull away from your camper. You may have holes that get damaged. You want to keep an eye on the weather. You want to know the conditions. If you're not in camp, bring your awning in. Just be safe. When you're going to bed at night, if you think the weather's going to get bad or you've got storms moving in, bring your awning in. Anytime that you think you may have heavy winds or strong winds, just bring your awning in. You're going to be safer that way. You're not going to end up with flying objects around, and you're not going to end up hundreds of dollars in the hole because you had an awning that's gotten ripped up by the wind. And number 7, this is another one that we see questions that actually have led to arguments, unfortunately, with people online in different forums. And this relates to the pressure that you put in your tires or the amount of air. People think of their car tires quite often, and commonly on normal car tires, 44 psi is the max pressure on any car tires. So people look at the side of their camper tires and they see, or their trailer tires, and they see 60, 65, 70, 75 psi, and they just cannot comprehend this concept, and they argue that that's too much. Something has to be wrong. They don't want to put that much in there, or it doesn't look right from the side when you're looking at it. The manufacturer knows what they're doing. They go through plenty of quality control and quality checks. And I assure you that when they put 65 pounds of pressure on the sidewall of the trailer tire, that is what is supposed to be there. Now granted, this is a maximum, and things like weather conditions and such may have an impact on how much pressure, how much air you put in your tires. But for the most part, you want to use this as your guide, and you want to make sure that your tires are properly inflated. This is something that you should be checking quite often. We do it before every trip. Several people use different tire pressure monitoring systems. I can think of a few that are coming to the top of mind. Not gonna, specifically call out any brands or names here in this video because we're not pushing anyone and we're not using one. Not at the moment. We will be going to one, but we also don't advertise products that we don't personally use or haven't personally used that we can vouch for. So with that said, just make sure you're checking your tires. Keep a cheap tire pressure gauge in your glove compartment. Check your tires at several times, before you're moving out. Make sure things are properly inflated, and it's going to save you a lot of hassle. It's going to save you on gas mileage and potentially a lot of trouble in the future. Number 8. Number 8 is something that people, especially starting out, have trouble comprehending and understanding. And it's really not that complicated of an issue. And that goes to your towing capacity and your weight. What can you tow and what can you tow safely with your vehicle? This all comes back to the manufacturer of your tow vehicle. Pull out your owner's manual and see what your owner's manual says. Don't go by every Tom, Dick, and Harry on Facebook that you want to go and ask, because they're all going to have a million different opinions and a million different answers. Go by your owner's manual, because that is what has been tested to be safe. If your owner's manual says that your tow capacity of your vehicle is 5,000 pounds, you're not pulling a 4,500 pound trailer safely. The way to think about this is generally the 80% rule. That means 80% of your vehicle's tow capacity is what you can safely tow, usually as an unloaded vehicle weight. So 80% at 5,000 is a 4,000 pound camper. You need to stick with that, because when you think about what you're adding into it, you've got your bedding, you've got your pots and pans and different things and food and stuff you add in. Then you got to think about your water. Water is not light. Water weighs over 8 pounds per gallon. So that adds up very quickly. Like us, our small camper has a 30-gallon freshwater tank. If we just put 20 gallons in the thing because we're going to be boondocking, we've added almost another 170 pounds plus of weight onto our camper. These are things that are often forgotten, but they go into your weight. If you're overweight, you can end up with problems not only with your transmission, but with stopping. And that is the big thing. Yes, your vehicle may be able to get started. It may be able to pull it down the road, but can you stop it? And can you stop it in a timely manner in an emergency? So what you need to do is, if you really question where you're at on the weight, go to a truck stop. Put everything in that you think you're going to have. Hook it up, go to a truck stop, and hop on one of the weigh scales. See exactly what your weight is. You do not want to be overweight under any circumstances. This is a safety issue mainly for you, but it can be a detriment to other people on the roadways as well. And number 9 is not using a surge protector. We're guilty. We're still not using a surge protector. We've looked at several different options. Fortunately, we haven't been at the level of expense into a camper because of the way that we've progressed that I really felt we had to have one. It is something that we're going to get, and it's something that I do recommend that everyone use, especially if you're buying a new camper or you've got a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $100,000 camper. The surge protectors are going to protect your rig. Granted, several of these are quite expensive, into the hundreds of dollars range, but would you rather spend $100, $200 on a surge protector to plug in at the pedestal to protect your unit, or would you rather spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to repair an electrical issue, or even worse, tens of thousands of dollars to replace your unit because it burned? So to get the surge protector, there are several different brands out there. You can ask who people use. There's a couple of brands you're going to see everywhere that are very popular. And you're going to plug this in directly to the pedestal at the campground before you plug your unit in. You're going to make sure that the power is what it needs to be, that nothing is surging. And if something does spike through the system in this campground with all the lines running underground, your rig is going to be protected. Some of these higher end surge protectors even back you with a monetary guarantee. So grab you a surge protector, make sure that you're safe, have some peace of mind. And finally, number 10, and to us one of the most important, is proper planning for your trip. Google Maps are great. We use them a lot. Apple Maps, we use them some as well. Waze, all the ones that people use. They're great mapping apps. They're great GPS units for normal travel, but none of these are designed specifically for RV travel. There are a few GPS units out there that are designed for RVs, but even better than that is there are some apps. One specifically that we use, and I'll put a link down below to this, it can save you a little bit of money on this as well, is RV Life Pro. RV Life Pro has a mapping system built in, and it is absolutely phenomenal. It is designed specifically for RV travel. You go in and you can set everything up. Just got to set it up one time. You put in your total length of your rig and your tow vehicle, everything all combined. Are you carrying propane or not? What is your width? What is your height? What is your weight? All of these things are taken into account, and when you put them in, RV Life is not going to route you down a roadway or on a path that you are not safe to be on. If you are 13 feet 5 inches, they're not going to put you going down a road that has an overpass that is only 12 feet tall. They're not going to put you going through a tunnel that doesn't allow propane. So you're going to make sure that you're safe and you're properly planning. The last thing you want to do is use the wrong mapping system and get stuck down a road that you don't need to be on. We're guilty. We've done it. We've gotten down a dirt road in a national park that we had no business being on with a camper, and there was no way out except to put it in four-wheel drive and find the place that we could turn around and come back out. After that, we went to the RV Life Pro system, and we absolutely love it to the point that we are now affiliates or ambassadors with RV Life. So we're sharing that with you in the link down below. So check it out. Again, make sure that you're subscribed here. We're going to have several of these videos like this coming out of top 10s and things that you should do, where you can buy things, where you can get things cheaper, things that we've learned over the years that we've been on the road now, things that are going to help you out. Let us know if you have anything to add to this list. What do you think mistakes people make too often that can be fixed? We'd love to hear from it. Till next time, take care, roam free.